I still replay that moment in my head, the words echoing, "Stop." My son-in-law, Mark, stood there, blocking my path, a strange look on his face, as my house, my sanctuary, was in imminent danger. He knew everything, and his calm, almost unsettling demeanor in the face of my panic is something I still struggle to comprehend. Was I wrong to push past him, to demand answers, to try and save what was mine? Tell me, if you were me, rushing home with your heart in your throat, seeing your own flesh and blood telling you to stop, what would you have done? Let me take you back to how this nightmare began. My name is Arthur, and for 30 wonderful years, my wife, Eleanor, and I built a life in that house. It wasn't just bricks and mortar. It was every memory, every milestone. We raised our daughter, Sarah, there. We celebrated birthdays, hosted holidays, and weathered storms, both literal and figurative. Eleanor passed away 5 years ago, and the house became an even more sacred space for me, a tangible connection to her memory. Sarah, my only child, eventually married Mark, a man I initially quite liked. He was charming, attentive to Sarah, and seemed to have a good head on his shoulders. They bought a smaller place a few towns over, and for a while, life continued in its comfortable, predictable rhythm. Sarah would visit often, sometimes with Mark, sometimes on her own. I loved having them over, filling the quiet house with laughter again. Things started to shift subtly about a year ago. Sarah began mentioning money troubles. Mark's business, a small tech startup, wasn't doing as well as they'd hoped. I'd offer to help, of course, but they always politely declined, insisting they'd figure it out. I respected their independence, but a father's intuition, you know. It gnawed at me. Then came the phone calls, sometimes from Sarah, sometimes from Mark, asking for small loans. Always with the promise of paying me back quickly, and they always did, at least at first. 50 here, 100 there. It grew, slowly, insidiously. Soon, it was a few thousand. I didn't mind, really. They were my family. What was mine was theirs, in my eyes. I had a comfortable pension, and Eleanor and I had been frugal. I had savings. My house was fully paid off, a fact I was immensely proud of. One afternoon, Sarah called me, her voice trembling. Mark had made a terrible investment, and they were in serious debt. They were facing foreclosure on their own home. My heart broke for her. She was crying, begging me for help. I told her, without hesitation, that I would do whatever I could. I even suggested they move in with me for a while, just until they got back on their feet. She seemed hesitant about that, which struck me as odd. They said they needed a large sum, more than I could comfortably give without touching my principal savings. It was then that Mark suggested a temporary solution. He proposed that I take out a home equity loan on my house. He explained that since my house was paid off, it had significant equity. We could use that money to pay off their debt, and they would immediately start paying me back, covering the loan payments and more. He even said they would formally sign a document, making it all legal. I was reluctant. This house was Eleanor's and mine. The thought of putting it at risk, even temporarily, felt wrong. But Sarah was so distressed, and Mark was so convincing. He painted a picture of a quick recovery, a return to normalcy. He even offered to handle all the paperwork, saying he had experience with financial matters through his business. Foolishly, blindly, I agreed. I trusted them. I went through the process, signed the papers, and the money was transferred. I saw the relief in Sarah's eyes, and that was enough for me. For a few months, they made good on their promise. Payments came in, on time, covering the loan. I started to relax, thinking maybe I had worried for nothing. But then, the payments started getting erratic. A week late here, 2 weeks there. Then they stopped altogether. I called Sarah, but she'd always make excuses. Mark was busy. He was traveling, he was sorting it out. When I finally reached Mark, he was evasive, talking about unforeseen delays and promises of a lump sum payment very soon. The bank, however, was not as understanding. They started calling me, missed payments, late fees. My anxiety began to spiral. I called Sarah again, this time more insistent, demanding to know what was going on. Her voice was strained, almost distant. She said she'd talked to Mark. A few days later, I received a certified letter from the bank. It was a notice of default. My house, my paid-off, beloved house, was in jeopardy. They were initiating foreclosure proceedings. Panic, cold and sharp, seized me. I immediately called Sarah and Mark, but neither answered. I left frantic voicemails. I tried again and again, but nothing. It was like they had vanished. This was Thursday. The deadline the bank had given me to make a substantial payment to stop the foreclosure was Monday. I spent the entire weekend in a haze of fear and disbelief. How could this be happening? How could my own daughter and son-in-law do this to me? I tried to contact them relentlessly. On Monday morning, with the bank's deadline looming, I discovered something truly horrifying. I had received a cryptic email from an unknown sender, just a few lines of text. Check your county's public records. Your house isn't just mortgaged, it's been transferred. My blood ran cold. Transferred? What did that even mean? I frantically searched online for my county's property records, my hands shaking so badly I could barely type. And there it was, in black and white. A quitclaim deed. My signature, or a convincing forgery, relinquishing ownership of my home to Mark, my son-in-law, not Sarah, not both of them, just Mark. The date on the document was just a few weeks after I took out the home equity loan. It hit me like a physical blow. The temporary solution, the paperwork he'd handle, it was all a meticulously planned deception. He hadn't just used the loan, he had taken the entire house. He had been planning this all along. My house was no longer mine. They had stolen it. I felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with pure, unadulterated rage. I grabbed my car keys, intending to drive straight to their house, to confront them, to demand answers, to somehow, impossibly, fix this. The drive felt like an eternity, my mind racing through every conversation, every interaction, trying to pinpoint when I had missed the signs, how I could have been so blind. I pictured myself storming into their home, shouting, demanding justice. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles were white. I knew I had to get back to my house, too. Even if it was legally his, I wasn't going to let him just take it without a fight. I needed to gather any documents I could find, any proof of my ownership, anything that could help me. So that's the situation I was in. I was speeding towards my own home, a storm of fury and terror brewing inside me, my son-in-law having stolen my life's biggest asset, and the bank about to take it all away. I had to make a choice: confront him immediately, or try to secure what little evidence I could. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have gone straight to confront him, or would you have gone to your house first, risking him being there? As I pulled into my driveway, tires screeching, I saw him, Mark, standing on my porch, holding a set of keys, the very keys to my asterisk house. And as I lunged out of the car, heart pounding, a guttural cry escaping my lips, he simply raised a hand, his face unreadable, and said, "Stop." It wasn't a question, it was a command. A shiver ran down my spine, replacing the rage with a cold dread. He wasn't surprised to see me. He wasn't fleeing. He was waiting, "What have you done, Mark?" I roared, my voice hoarse. "You stole my house. You stole everything." He just sighed, a calm, deliberate breath that infuriated me even more. "It's not yours anymore, Arthur. You signed the papers." "I signed for a loan, not to give you my house. You forged my signature on that quitclaim deed, didn't you?" He smirked then, a small, unsettling curve of his lips. "No forgery necessary, Arthur. You signed that too, hidden in a stack of legitimate loan documents. You were too eager to help Sarah, too trusting." My stomach churned. He was right. I hadn't read every single page with a fine-tooth comb. I had trusted him. "Where's Sarah?" I demanded, my voice breaking. "Does she know about this?" He shook his head. "Sarah knows nothing about the deed. She thinks it was just the loan. She wouldn't have agreed to this part. But she knows about the money problems, and she knows you're generous." The coldness in his tone, the sheer calculation, was horrifying. "So, what? You just take my house. What about the bank? The foreclosure? That's my problem now, isn't it?" he said, shrugging. "I've been in negotiations. I'm going to pay off the loan. I just needed to secure the asset first, and now it's secure, mine." He gestured with the keys. "I'm changing the locks today. Thought I'd wait until you were notified, but I guess you're early." I felt lightheaded. This wasn't just about money or property. It was a betrayal of the highest order. My own son-in-law, a snake in the grass, had orchestrated this entire elaborate scheme, preying on my love for my daughter and my trusting nature. "You won't get away with this," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. "I'll go to the police. I'll get a lawyer. I'll fight you." He just stared at me, his eyes devoid of any warmth, any empathy. "You can try, Arthur, but you signed the papers, and you gave me the money for the loan. It's all perfectly legal, however distasteful you find it. And Sarah, well, she'll have to choose, won't she? Her father, who's accusing her husband of theft, or her husband, who just saved her from financial ruin. The cruelty of it, the way he was turning my daughter against me, it was unbearable. I looked at my house, the house I built a life in, and realized it was truly gone, stolen by the man who married my child. The confrontation didn't end with a brawl or a dramatic shouting match. It ended with me, standing heartbroken in my driveway, watching Mark calmly walk into my home, lock the door, and then drive away, leaving me to grapple with the devastating reality. I did go to the police, but as Mark had so calmly stated, the papers were signed. My legal options were limited, expensive, and a long, uphill battle. The emotional toll of potentially bringing my own daughter into a legal fight against her husband was something I couldn't bear. Sarah, when I finally reached her, was devastated and conflicted, unable to believe Mark would do such a thing, but also beholden to him for saving them. Our relationship is fractured, perhaps beyond repair. I'm now living in a small apartment, piecing my life back together, forever changed by the betrayal. The moral of my story, if there is one, is to never, ever let your guard down, no matter how much you trust someone. Family can be the sharpest knife. Always, always read every single line of every single document before you sign it. No matter how much you want to help, protect yourself first. Like this video if you were on my side, if you felt my pain and my anger. Subscribe for more stories like this, so others can learn from my mistakes. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Tell me, what would you have done differently? I'll see you all in the next story.